Pilot Affinity Group as a project manager. And we are so excited to welcome you to our third meeting. As you are settling in, please feel free to say hello via the chat. You can mention your entity. If it's your first meeting, we'd love to hear that. And we'll get started just in a few minutes. Thank you so much for your patience. Wonderful. Tracy, Sue, Sarah, hello. Andrew, Pete, thank you. Wonderful. Awesome. As you can see, we're getting up to the 50s. We usually have about 60 participants or so on our call. So we want to be mindful and give people a few more minutes. Going from meeting to meeting does take just a little bit of time. All right. Okay, I think we're close to get started. There we go. I see a few of our presenters joining. Awesome. Okay, we're going to go ahead and get started. I think we have the majority of people on the line, and we are so excited to welcome you all to our third meeting. Wonderful. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and kick us off. Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Gabriela Gonzalez. I'm part of the EMI Advisors team, and I serve as a project manager for the Gravity Pilot Affinity Group. And we want to warmly welcome you to our meeting number 3. This is part of a monthly series, 90-minute calls. We adjusted the date for this month, given the Thanksgiving holiday. It's already next week, but we wanted to ensure that we give you a good agenda for today. So we do have 3 wonderful presenters, and I'm going to kind of walk us through some housekeeping announcements. We are so grateful for your support and participation on this monthly meetings. Due to the large number of attendees, everyone has been muted upon entry to prevent background noise. You are welcome to raise your virtual hand as well as use the chat in order to say hello, share where you're joining us from. Let us know if this is your first meeting. We know we have new and old friends, and it's really a great opportunity to convene and have a discussion with one another. We do want to be mindful that if there are any technical difficulties, please, you can contact Dembry. She's supporting us behind the scenes, our Zoom host, and she'll be happy to support you with any technical issues there. And I see people continue to say hello, which is wonderful. Thank you. For today, we have some announcements. Again, welcome you all. We do have 3 wonderful presentations from Open City Labs, BitFocus, MuleSoft, and Salesforce. So majority of our time will be spent learning from these 3 wonderful organizations. We'll have time for open discussion. I want to encourage everyone to please chime in your questions throughout the presentation. The Gravity team is on the line, and we are happy to answer questions. Again, please raise your virtual hand if you would like to speak. We do have a large number of attendees, so we want to be mindful of keeping track of, who raises their hand and all that good stuff. So as part of the Gravity project, we start with our antitrust practices. We want to be mindful that this is an open forum, and we want to comply with federal and state antitrust laws. Participants should not discuss pricing or other pricing related items. The full statement is here for your reference. We are a learning forum, and we want to, learn from each other. We're not here to, do any type of agreements or deals. It's really harnessing and fostering a community about testing Gravity standards. I want to give a shout out to the wonderful team that it's making all this work happen. We are a village because I think this work really requires expertise and support from many different people. And I want to give a shout out to our wonderful consultants. As you can see here, Denver and I support the monthly calls, but we cannot do this without Evelyn, Himali, Sarah, Brett, Jim, Corey, and Monique. So really thankful for everyone's support. And as well as thanking our sponsors. These monthly calls are being sponsored by the Office of the National Coordinator for Health and Information Technology, the Administration for Community Living, IHE USA, and fund from AARP. We do have a Confluence site where we house all of our information. It's really our knowledge management site to support learning and sharing of the materials that we discussed during this calls. So all of our materials are posted here, and we really encourage everyone to check out our site. Great. In terms of updates, I would love to share that we have received a great amount of interest from the community. We are so excited that many of you have signed up as pilot partners and are looking to pilot participants and are looking for partnerships. So I'm going to do a quick demo into the participants that are seeking entities to join their efforts to stand up a gravity pilot. In our homepage, you'll see the pilots that are currently active are in the works, are doing efforts of testing the gravity standards. And now I'm gonna just toggle here to, sorry about that. I'm going to toggle to our homepage to showcase the specific partnerships that are available for participants. So during our homepage, as mentioned, we give you a overview of our learning community. We want you all to officially sign up to the Affinity group. You can click this form and it will pull up an interest form to collect your name, email, and some other information. You do need to select what level of participation you're looking to commit. We have observers, pilot participants, and for our wonderful pilot partners. So everyone who's doing presentations through this forum will be featured here on our site. Specifically though, I wanna shed light on the list of pilot participants that are looking to stand up a pilot with support of other partners. So this list here is alphabetized, so it starts in order, and it gives you a snapshot of the type of partnerships that they're looking and their pilot scope. As part of our technical assistance, we work with sites to identify what tier level they might fall into. So you do have an idea here of their efforts and point of contact. If you're interested in engaging with any of the organizations listed below, we kindly encourage you to send us an email to the Gravity Project, and we'll be very happy to connect you and set up some coordination steps there. Wonderful. So any questions, feel free to chat it. I do see one question in the chat. What is navigation to? Oh, perfect. Thank you. Great. So yeah, the site, it's right there. And I'll go back into the homepage where houses everything. And then as you scroll down, you'll be able to see the link for the specific sub page. Perfect. Thank you so much. All right. And that leads us into upcoming announcements. So we are extremely excited to share that given there's a lot of interest on the practicality of testing standards, we have added a new agenda item during our monthly meetings. We will be holding monthly office hours where the purpose is to foster create a space for community discussion, specifically centered around our Gravity Fire IG. The full name is Social Determinants of Health, Clinical Care, Fast Health Interoperability Resource Implementation Guide, as well as terminology related questions to support implementation. So we encourage everyone to submit questions in advance. Again, Gravity Project, it's really the central hub for us to get those questions and triage them with the team. And we didn't receive any for this call, but this is a reminder that we do encourage you and we want you to send us your questions, especially as pilots start. You might be coming across certain challenges or technical questions. We're here to support you. On that note, we would like you to kindly save the date. For some of you that have been part of the HL7 community, they hold quarterly Connectathon events, and the one coming up is in January 2023. It will be an in-person event in Nevada. As you can see the dates there, and thank you, Denver, for sharing the link in the chat. There's early bird pricing by December 16, and the Gravity Project will be hosting a track. So for any implementers and any observers, the list of the use cases as well as the intent of the testing event are featured on the track page. If you're interested in participating, we encourage you to contact Corey Spears and Aaron Save at their emails here. That would be the best way to get in touch with them. Thank you. And on a more celebratory note, I would like to share that from a terminology update, the Gravity Project is excited to announce that multiple ICD-10 CM codes have been approved for implementation. You'll see the full list in the email, and sorry, the full lists are there. Transportation codes are part of that, so it's sort of like an official stamp that they're ready to be implemented and used across the systems. We also want to share that we are hosting a sponsor matching campaign to be able to launch a digital inequity access and digital literacy domain. This is an opportunity to match some of the support that Kaiser Permanente has provided. And if you have questions, the point of contact is our colleague Jillian, and you can see her email here. All right. I'll pause here for a second and see if there are any questions. All right. Seeing none, again, I encourage you, if you're joining us now, feel free to say hello via the chat. We do see who we have in the virtual room, and we're excited to now dive into some pilot presentations. It is an honor, and really I want to give a shout out to all the speakers that are providing their I would say expertise, because it did take some level of effort to put the slides together, and the presentations look amazing. So from a just orientation perspective, each of our speakers will go over this outline, sharing about their organization, their business drivers, the standards that they're using or are in production, and reflecting on success metrics as well as resources that are available for everyone here in this virtual room. So I will start us off with Open City Labs. I want to thank Matt and Brian for their efforts. And Brian, I believe you will be our main speaker, and Matt will support with questions and answers. So I will cue you up right now.
Wonderful. Thank you. Thank you. I'm Brian Hanspicker, CTO of Open City Labs. I'm here with Matt Bishop, CEO, to present on Open City Labs product deployments, which are piloting gravity-based standards. Next slide. Open City Labs Community Exchange connects healthcare and social care providers and individuals and caregivers to the data and tools that improve health and well-being of individuals, families, households, and communities. Whether that means enabling older Americans to receive care so that they can live with dignity in their home, or preventing traumatic events in the lives of children by connecting those families with healthcare and social services, or supporting unhoused individuals and families. We do this by providing an interoperability infrastructure to provide a 360-degree view of the life and health and well-being of the individual, their family, or household, as well as enable providers and individuals to access all of their healthcare and social care data. Next slide. OCL's Navigator 360 product provides care coordination and case management for practitioners, providing a 360-degree view of healthcare and social care information associated with a person, such as a patient or a client, aggregated from multiple different healthcare record systems or social care record systems. Having a full view of all of the health and social issues associated with an individual is critical to enabling effective clinical and social service referrals. We take that same 360-degree view with healthcare and social care directories by supporting multiple individual directory standards and federating the associated records to enable staff or seekers to find the most appropriate service for the individual family or household need. Finally, we support multiple different de jure and de facto state mechanisms for closed loop and open loop referrals for service providers, meeting those providers where they are, whether that means fully supporting Gravity's Fire SDOH Clinical Care IG or IHE's 360X closed loop referral standard, or simply providing secure and unsecure email, or even just fax or printed postal or hand-delivered referrals. We make the referral work independent of the technology capabilities of the provider. Next slide. We built our products based on standards in which we are active participants, either as working group members, as specification editors, or chairs. I'm not going to belabor the laundry list here, but I hope that we are involved in all of those efforts that are appropriate and necessary for ensuring effective interoperability between all of our systems. Next slide. We have been participating in proofs of concepts, challenges, and connectathons since the very earliest days of the Gravity Project, winning third place with the Robert Wood Johnson Foundation SDOH Innovation Challenge way back in September of 2029, which seems like a lifetime ago now, through to just recently winning grand prize and the bonus prize, along with our partners May June and Team Firefly for the ACL Social Care Referrals Challenge, just this past month, October of 2022. And late breaking news, as of 2 days ago, we've been told that we can share that the AARP Foundation Innovation Program is funding our project with the Age Span Area Agency on Aging in Massachusetts, north of Boston. Next slide. New Jersey Integrated Care for Kids is our first, if you will, pilot. It's a CMMI-funded pediatric care and alternative payment model that aims to reduce expenditures and, most importantly, I think, improve the quality of care for Medicaid recipients under the age of 21. The goal is to achieve early identification of patients with complex needs from among the approximately 140,000 Medicaid child beneficiaries in New Jersey's Monmouth and Ocean counties, and identify, refer, and deliver integrated clinical, behavioral, and social care services needed to support those complex needs. The use cases for New Jersey Inc. encompass the full Gravity workflow, from assessment of needs using May June's Questionario survey app based on FHIR questionnaire response and link codes, to identification and conditions and goals in using SNOMED CT codes and ICD-10 codes, to closed loop service referrals based on FHIR SDOH Clinical Care IG, as well as other protocols as supported by the service providers. Next slide. We are well supported by staff from the VNA Health Group, Visiting Nurses Association of New Jersey Health Group, Hackensack Meridian Hospital, and New Jersey 211, the statewide 211 service directory, as well as our colleagues at Zane Networks, who provide the Operational Data Hub, or ODH, case management product, and May June, who are providing the Questionario survey platform. Next slide. And this is a Tier 3 project covering all of the Gravity use cases except the Referral Light protocol. The New Jersey Inc. period extends through 2026, but we expect our Gravity testing to be completed by the end of the year. Next slide. And with apologies for just zipping through some of these slides with 15, 20 minutes to go to do this in, we kind of make it March. The New Jersey Inc. ecosystem is diverse, with an Epic electronic health medical record system used by the clinical staff, and Apricot database used as a CRM, a customer relationship management product for social care case management, fire and LOINC-based assessments specific to the requirements of the INC program, the operational data hub being used as a clinical case management system, a shared Google Fire server, and of course, OCL's product suite providing federated directory services and referral management via Fire, direct secure messaging, email, and fax. Next slide. Here's the fun one, the workflow. In the New Jersey Inc. workflow, a care coordinator uses ODH, Operational Data Hub, to assign a task to a patient or caregiver, such as a parent of a child, to complete the Integrated Care for Kids Needs Assessment Survey. The patient or the parent or caregiver takes the assessment using May-June's questionnario, and the answers are captured in patient records on a common fire server as LOINC and SNOMED codes in fire questionnaire response resources, observation resources, and condition health concern resources. John and or Gray can correct me if I'm wrong about the condition health concerns. The care coordinator that assigned this task is notified of the completion of the survey task and the creation of any new observations or conditions for the patient. And that care coordinator then selects goals for this patient to address these new observations or conditions and creates a task for a referral manager to refer the patient for appropriate social care services to address those SDOH conditions. On notification of the task, the referral manager then selects OCL Navigator from the Operational Data Hub Smart on Fire launch menu and is logged in automatically to Navigator 360 through a single sign-on. The referral manager then uses Navigator 360's Federated Resource Discovery and Directory dashboard to query for services, for example, a food pantry to meet the needs of food insecurity, and the endpoint, such as a fire, direct, email, etc., with which to integrate with to submit this referral to the service provider. The OCL Federated Directory uses referential matching and a merge of data from multiple different directories and saves metadata for data provenance and potential update of that information across all of the different directories that are federated through OCL. Selecting a service and when the referral manager selects a service and requests a referral, the referral is auto-populated with the reason code, such as the condition, and intent, such as the goal to be met, as well as the service code for the selected service, and other fire service request and task fields. The referral is created as a fire service request and associated task, which are then submitted to this selected service provider using their preferred endpoint. The recipient service provider closes the loop digitally with OCL Navigator 360, where the selected endpoint supports bidirectional communication. And upon closing the loop with Navigator 360, it triggers Navigator to update the original referral service request and task in the shared fire server. Next slide.
Hi, Brian. I see a question in the chat. Is it okay to take it now, or would you like to take it towards the end of your
I'd
presentation?
like to take it towards the end since I'm on a tight time frame here, if that's all right.
Absolutely.
So the next
Thank
slide.
you.
My apologies, we're doing two different pilots here. Our upcoming Age Span project, funded by the AARP Foundation, aims to improve older Americans' access to 5 government benefits using Open City Labs Navigator 360. And partners will be able to close the loop, close the referral loop to Age Span, enabling staff, clients, and caregivers to streamline eligibility and autofill application forms. Next slide. We are just in the process, however, of identifying the full team for the Age Span project. So I'm hoping that at some point next calendar year, we'll be able to report back on it and provide more detail. Next slide. This, however, is a tier 2 project, not a tier 3 project, since we are creating applications, referrals to government programs which do not, at the moment, support the Gravity SDOH clinical care IG specification. So we'll be capturing assessment codes, identifying appropriate interventions, et cetera, based on Gravity taxonomies, but then referring for these appropriate government services and benefits by filling out PDF forms and e-faxing those forms to government agencies for potential enrollment. Next slide. At the moment, the technology ecosystem for this project is focused on the OCL product suite at this time. Of course, as we get deeper into our work with AgeSpan, we will probably be expanding this ecosystem, and we'll report on that in time. Next slide. The workflow, expected workflow for the AgeSpan referrals starts with the referral being initiated by a referral source to address a specific condition, for example, food insecurity, or as a referral for further assessment. The referral for further assessment is the interesting one here, believe it or not. AgeSpan, once it refers, it receives a referral, such as for further assessment. AgeSpan will conduct that assessment, which for AAAs, for area agencies on aging, very often is a very in-depth and broad assessment, including interviews, even home visits to try to determine what the full breadth of needs are. Upon determining those needs, AgeSpan case manager will identify potential government benefits, evaluate potential eligibility for those government benefits, and will select one or more of those benefits for referral, in other words, for completion of the application forms. The associated referrals for these government services each need to specify, this is the important thing, that they are based on the original service request for assessment from the initial referral source. This enables the referral source to see each of the resulting services delivered in response to the initial referral for further assessment. And we'll get into the gory details of that at the final slide when we get into lessons learned. One or more tasks will then be created for filling out PDF application forms for government benefits to address the multiple needs. The tasks to complete the applications are assigned either to the patient client or their caregiver, or the application can be assigned to an AgeSpan case manager to assist the patient client, or if an authorized representative form has been signed by the patient client, then the referral can be assigned to the AgeSpan case manager to complete the application on their behalf without the direct participation of that particular individual. And that becomes important in the slide coming up next. The forms are completed with autofill and Care 360, our product for the individual patient or client or caregiver, or in Navigator 360 if the case manager is assisting or filling out the form on behalf of the patient client. And that form is then electronically faxed to the government agency for consideration. We close the completion of the task is captured by Navigator 360. The intervention, that is that an application has been made for specific government services, is documented, and the loop is closed by updating the referral source for within their either service request and task information or non-standard mechanism. Note that if the form is filled out by a case worker, there is this additional task assigned to the client, the patient/client/caregiver to sign an authorized representative form using Care 360. Next slide, which is shown on this slide. I think you need to go back. There you go. In this workflow, the HSpan staff can assign a patient or client or caregiver the task to complete an authorized representative form, which gives them permission to fill out the forms and receive communication about enrollment in government benefits on behalf of that individual. And of course, I'm not going to belabor this, but we assign a new task to the case manager for filling out the authorized representative form. That's assigned, the new task is created by the case manager, and it's assigned to either the client and caregiver or assigned to a case manager, a caseworker, for assisted completion with the patient slash client slash caregiver. A task is created and forms are completed, and the completion of that task for filling out this authorized form is captured by Navigator 360. Next slide. Having covered the two different pilots, the goal of these pilots is to really demonstrate the full breadth of the Gravity project, including all of the tier 1, 2, and 3 roles, except for referral recipient light. We do not yet have an app that would take advantage of referral recipient light. We've also done some surveys with our potential clients out there, service providers out there, where we found that those service providers that might take advantage of a light referral workflow really don't have the necessary technological infrastructure to support it. And even if they did, the local chief information security officers for our healthcare systems aren't really keen on having the local laundromat or daycare center have their workers connecting in using their smartphones brought from home to their fire servers. So we're looking for a simpler and perhaps arm's length approach to supporting these smallest, lowest tech social care service providers. Next slide. OCL currently supports all of the existing Gravity code SDOH domains across all of the code systems that are currently specified. And for the exchange standards, we take the position that we meet the service providers or CBOs where they are. Gravity Fire SDOH clinical care IG referrals when they support fire, IHE 360X when they support direct secure messaging, ICFIS simplified referral that we're prototyping. If they simply need to be able to go to, in essence, a direct secure messaging portal to read an email message, SMS, unsecured email, direct secure messaging email, eFax, hard copy, or even just logging a phone call, if that's the only mechanism for providing a service request referral. Next slide. The pilot timelines, as mentioned earlier, we expect to have completed our New Jersey Inc. testing by the end of the year. However, the Inc. program itself continues on for a few years yet. And the HSpan project is just kicking off this week, and we expect to complete testing by July of 2023. Next slide. How do we define success? Well, each of the projects have their own unique success metrics. Obviously, within New Jersey Inc., we want patients to be able to access comprehensive clinical and social care services. We want to get a higher rate of closed referrals, closed loop referrals, by exchanging these referrals across standard electronic mechanisms. We also want to address the medical and social risks of the Medicaid beneficiaries through integrated delivery of appropriate services. For age span, the requirements, the metrics are slightly different. We're looking for increasing the submission of applications for government benefits, increasing government benefits enrollments and the success of those enrollments through sort of pre-eligibility identification for the candidates. And then ultimately measuring the dollar value of government benefits that are delivered to AgeSpan's client base, and increasing the number of client needs that are actually met. Next slide. And on this final I should say penultimate slide. What have we learned to date? Well, one thing that we've learned is that closing the loop for multi-hop referrals requires very careful implementation of the data elements called based on in the fire service request, fire task, fire procedures, and other resources. Proper use of based on allows us to associate, for example, multiple complex needs referrals, such as in response to a request, a referral for further assessment, resulting in a food referral, a housing referral, a transportation referral, daycare referral, laundry referral, et cetera. Ensuring that the originator of the further assessment referral can see what additional referrals were created in response to that. We also, however, need a service request delivered services data element created, which is something we'll provide as feedback to the STU3 ballot. Because right now, the only way to correlate the services actually delivered, the procedures actually performed in the current specification is by the creation of new procedures in a fire server with the based on element set to the URI of the service request. And then that service request based on set to the initial service request for example, the further assessment request. And that works fine if you happen to be using a single fire server. But if the referral for a service in response to the for further assessment is assigned to a practitioner working on a separate EHR, a separate fire server, we may not be able to execute the search across multiple fire servers or even know that there are associated procedures on a different server. So we need to sort of close that little gap in the standard. The final two comments are small and low-tech service providers need a simpler closed-loop referral mechanism. I've already mentioned that in an earlier slide, so I won't belabor that. We also, of course, need alignment between healthcare and social care service directory information, such as the work that we are all doing in the Human and Social Services Working Group on the Human Services Directory, IG, as well as the National Directory and the Direct Trust Directory working groups. We also need alignment between healthcare and social care taxonomies, for example, between 211LA, open eligibility, and of course, the traditional healthcare taxonomies of NUCC, ICD-10, SNOMED, CT, LOINC, CPT, et cetera, et cetera. So those are our learnings. Thank you for your time. For more information or to partner with OCL on a pilot, follow through on these links or just drop us an email. And now I am open to questions. I have been completely ignoring everything in the chat. I hope Matt has been on top of them.
Absolutely. No, we are so grateful for the presentation. I know Matt has answered some, and I do see Aaron has his hand up. So please, Matt and Aaron, feel free to chime in. I think, Aaron, you go first.
Yeah, no, your first bullet on the previous slide, if we could go back one slide, is super, super important. You know, we want to try and figure out, I help with the IG. I want to try and figure out how to share that more explicitly. Like, can you think of a way that we could have included it in the IG narrative so that it was less tricky? Or do you think it's just a matter of actually
Well, that's where my second bullet comes in. I think that if we were to add a data element to the service request,
okay,
spec for delivered services or services delivered or procedures delivered, performed, or whatever you want to call it, that basically just points back to, gives us a list of URIs back to the procedures that were actually performed in response to this particular service request. We'd cover a lot of ground there. We'd still need the based on data elements because as I understand it, the service request, the initial service request in essence gives authorization for billing purposes as well as performing purposes for any subsequent service requests that are created as a result of, for instance, a referral for further assessment. And
right.
So
it's not always linear, right? Sometimes it's true, sometimes
it was based on that initial service request, but it doesn't solve the, okay, what was done, what procedures were performed in response to that.
Yeah, yeah.
I
Great.
wanted to add one more thing to that. So part of the use of that, so if there's a referral for further assessment, the age span staff determine someone has food insecurity and housing insecurity. Then we can create 2 other tasks to fill out the SNAP application form and the housing application form. That and then the question becomes, does the original referral initiator want to know what happened here in terms of the enrollment in SNAP or the enrollment in housing? And so that's something we're discussing with our partners and kind of really thinking through this multi-hop component. And you know, programs like SNAP have been shown, like, as we know, like reduce healthcare costs by like $1,200 per patient. So, and then there was also one question in the chat that I didn't get a chance to answer, but it's a really great discussion point, which was from James about did we find that there were gaps in the value sets or in the value sets or the data elements provided within Gravity. And one thing we've done kind of internally that's, I would say, is outside of the standard per se, is that, you know, as we know, Gravity is defined a relatively small number of programmatic domains, right? So you like within food insecurity, you'll have, I don't mean domains, I'm sorry, program names, right? So within food security, you'll have food pantries and home delivered meals, and there's maybe a dozen of them. But of course, like within the 211 LA, you know, value set of food, there's a lot more codes associated with services, right? And so what we ended up doing is essentially generating you know, a code that, so if we help someone, like if we don't have a Gravity value for some will have a direct mapping, right? You'll have a food pantries in 211LA and food pantries in Gravity, right? But for the majority of the 211LA codes, you won't, right? And so if you're documenting a referral or you're documenting assistance with an application, we actually generate by inserting the 211LA code, you know, referral to 211LA code or assistance with application for name of the form, right? Because they're more diverse. I want to get people's feedback on that. That's just something we decided to do that is outside the standard.
I think that's the right thing to do, right? So this is my opinion. This is Aaron. Totally, you know, I'm a fan of 211LA. It's got licensing constraints. So it was hard for us to bake into the IG just because of some of the guidance that we've gotten from HL7. But if you have a license for 211LA, that's a great code set.
But I mean, the question is more to kind of like generic, is like, how do you deal, like even outside of 211LA, like how do you deal with, you know, the need for a wider array of services than just what the programs that Gravity has researched.
I
right?
wish, I don't want to champion terminology persons, but you know, that's the rub, right? So when we started out with no, you know, the whole mission of the Gravity terminology work group, right? There was 471 different ways to say someone had food insecurity, right? So we did try to normalize that to some degree. So yeah, cautious about how creative you get, because then you will lose some fidelity when you go to do interoperability outside of your program.
Absolutely. I'm sorry. I want to just chime in here, keeping track of time. I want to be mindful of our upcoming presenter. But I do want to thank Brian and Matt for answering the chat questions. I think we may have one from Lucy that wasn't answered, but if it's okay, if you don't mind answering in the chat, and I would love to kind of queue up our next speaker, and we'll come back to a discussion towards the end to follow up. Thank you both. And I would like to present Eric. I hope that you're able to hear us.
Yep. Can you all hear me fine?
Yes, we can hear you. We can see you. Great. Thank you so much.
Great. Thank you all. Thanks for having me here today. A very different presentation for me, the way I've worked with Brian and Matt, and I'm on the ICSIS group and on the Gravity Technical Committee. But an excellent lead into exactly the problems I'll be describing with this with this pilot and the things we'll be facing and trying to deal with. There is very much a taxonomy mismatch between what HUD comes up with as the new data standard every year or two, and what's in the 2-in-1 taxonomy and what's in Gravity. The three things are totally different. And we've mapped screeners from old data standards in HUD to Gravity, but things have moved on and things are constantly changing. So this is going to be a tougher problem, what we were just talking about. But anyway, on to the presentation. So I work for BitFocus, which is on the CBO side, we provide HMIS, homeless management information systems, housing software, not public housing software like Yardi, but more like emergency shelter, outreach, prevention, HMIS, continuum of care, continuums of care are our clients. So everywhere in the US has to be part of a continuum of care, either a state or a city or group of counties. It can be any size depending on how leadership wants to define it. But essentially, we're one of the couple leading HMISs out there, and so we really want to focus on housing instability, and that's probably where we have the most exposure, even though we move in other areas of human services as well. But originally what I wanted to do, can we back up a couple slides? Thanks. I know we want to go fast here, but so anyway, so we have we're HUD funded mostly, or our customers are HUD funded with the Continuum of Care program, and then we have community housing queues that then kind of triage the clients and use vulnerability indicators and eligibility to determine who goes into what program. So we're the CBO side of the referral. We are the referral recipient in the schema. The purpose of this presentation is to solicit partners for this. It's kind of a neglected side of social determinants of health. It's the last mile. How do we get these referrals responded to or met? And then responded to in a FHIR-based way that will work for any of the provider community-based organizations or the software providers that service them. Can you move on to the next slide, Demery, please? Or Gabriella, I don't know who's driving. Okay, so our business drivers, why are we even getting involved with this? Why am I presenting to you today? We've got plenty to do just meeting HUD's requirements and meeting our customers' demands. But we really feel that homelessness, all these problems are not isolated. We really want to improve our customers, the social service organizations that use us, to interact better with other human services providers on behalf of their clientele. That's the only way we're going to solve homelessness. It's not by pumping more money through existing housing programs. That will definitely help. However, the whole gamut of behavioral health care and all the other social determinants and determinants of well-being, not just of health, but determinants of well-being in general, really have to be coordinated. And so, while we want to build something health specific for this pilot, really we need something that's generalized. And so I'll get to that. And it kind of gets to what Matt and Brian were just talking about. So really what we want to do with this pilot is show how we can more rapidly receive referrals for necessary services for clients that are already in our systems, and also look at how we can continue on with the phase 2 of the Gravity pilot, whereby we already have tons of these screeners collected for clients. In other words, you don't have to do this in the clinical setting. We've got the data. Now, how do we get that information to those who also need that information so that more assistance can be provided? Next slide, please. I'll try to catch us up with our schedule here. So our proposed pilot team, we would be the CBO referral recipient, service provider. And then we're looking for the originator of the referral, a clinical system project partner, and then perhaps optionally an intermediary of some sort for the referral. I'm forgetting the term for it, but essentially the referral intermediary is an optional partner. Next slide. By the way, I'm going to paste my, oh, thank you, Demery, for pasting my email. In the chats, my email address, if you want to contact me to be one of our partners to fulfill one of those roles. So essentially it would be housing instability as a tier 2 pilot. We don't want to build something right yet. We have to specify things a little better first. And so I really want to focus on the tier 2 referral recipient role. Our partner would have to work on the tier 1 documentation of, the intervention tracking within the fire structures resources. But that's not so much what the referral recipient's going to have to work on. We'd like a period of 6 to 12 months I'm laughing because that was extended from what I submitted, but I love extra time. And then, next slide, please. Yeah, I already discussed this mainly. So we would try to fulfill this role of the referral recipient, and then looking for someone to perform the intervention workflows, tracking that as the referral is received by us and then met and fulfilled by us as well. Next slide, please. So we want to use fire resources. That's the point of all this, and so goals within interventions and or alongside interventions, and then meeting of the service transaction referral, or I'm sorry, of the referral request. No, the service request. Sorry, got it wrong. So anyway, back to the standards we want to use. We want to use resources, but then for something that could be more broadly applicable to what we do, we'd like to be able to receive referrals from non-clinical partners. So we really think that Direct Trust ICSIS could be really good, because Direct Trust sets up the trust network between providers and has a simple transport that any CBO can be able to use. So what we come up with during this pilot could be very useful for many other community-based organizations outside of housing instability or the continuum of care network. So I think it's important to use the fire resources within the payloads, but I really think that using Direct Trust or ICSIS standards would simplify our task and also generalize our task. Next slide, please. And I've kind of already described this. Next slide, please. So yeah, we'll have we'll try to follow the standard pilot workflow during the 6 to 12 months. And mainly it will be a series of documents. I don't know how much actual testing we'll get to. It could be something whereby we would work with Direct Trust to set up some sort of test whereby we pass fire resources around, but I don't know how developed their specification is, so it could even be in concert with ICSIS standards development. Next slide, please. Yeah, that's more of the timeline I was thinking we had. We'd like to provide documentation artifacts would be the main product of this. And yes, our main two challenges are we need flexible technologies. We're trying to represent the service provider, the community-based organization with this pilot, the last mile, the referral recipient. So we need something flexible. Happy fire servers is just not in the works, as Brian, very clearly mentioned during his presentation so well. Other challenges, just finding some partners that are flexible to work with us as well. Next slide. We really want, to specify the workflow for housing instability in particular for the purposes of gravity. However, we really also want to reflect within our work, what could we do with the data we already have, the screeners we already have in our software. So much money is spent by HUD to do essentially what you're going to be collecting in, with gravity in the clinical side for service requests and observations and such. So how do we kind of merge all that together and create more of a two-way flow, a phase 2 SDOH. So we'd like to talk about that a little bit in our documentation, because that's what we do already. We have that data. And then, for the key performance metrics, we would like to have some standard UML documentation of how the sequence diagrams of how this will work with which technologies, and then some recommendations, and just based on what we're finding. We would perhaps like to have some mock servers running these exchanges, but it all just depends on partner resources and how much extra time we have. Next slide, please. So contact information, there's some hyperlinks when you get the actual slides. You can see our website, our the hub logical model, and you'll see how it mirrors the gravity intervention framework, but not exactly, and in different names. And just I don't know, if you like Superman, it's Bizarro Superman. I don't know which is Bizarro. They're both equivalents. And HUD Continuum of Care link is there too. You can read about how that process works. And we don't really mention them a lot. We talk a lot about 2-on-1s and such, but that is also a body of framework, a community-based framework, whereby gravity could coordinate its efforts as well. It's not just focused on, it has mostly HUD funding, I would say, but it's not purely focused on housing instability. So it also has all of the United States within it. The whole US is carved into continuum of care. So you've covered everything if you've got all the continuums participating. So that's my presentation. Thank you so much for your time. And I'll give you 3 minutes back.
Thank you, Eric, so much. And just wanted to chime in a little bit that, part of being a pilot participant is really being able to identify what can be of help to your entity, and highlighting, Eric, that focus on housing instability, I think is just really key to point out. I know we have invited community health centers, community-based organizations. I really want to encourage people to please reach out directly as you hear our pilot participants looking for partners, and I would love to match you and be able to foster those relationships. Appreciate everyone's time. I don't see questions for Eric specifically, so I will transition us into our third presentation. A bit of a pause. Again, very thankful for everyone's patience. The chat's very active. We appreciate the questions throughout the presentation, so please keep them coming. And I will queue up Peter. I hope you can hear me.
I can, thank you.
Wonderful. Thank you, Peter. Take it away.
Okay. Well, I'm Peter Herman. I lead solution engineering for MuleSoft's Healthcare and Life Sciences division. MuleSoft, if you don't know us, is a wholly owned subsidiary of Salesforce. And we are today, as I'll get into it in a second, the leading API and integration management vendor in the world. And, with Salesforce and MuleSoft together, we're providing some really outstanding solutions to the healthcare and life sciences space. And the other folks who helped me with the work today, and who probably know a lot more of the details of the stuff I'm going to present than I do, were not able to attend today due to conflicts. So we'll see how I do on my own here, Gabby. You can go to the next slide. So let me just start by saying thanks, first to Gabby and Demry and Linnell and the Gravity team. It's been a journey for us over the last year, participating in the project and learning about the goals of the project, and trying to find a way that we can continue to support and even accelerate our support of this initiative. So thank you for all you've done to make us feel welcome and to help us participate to date. Also, thanks to Brian and Matt from Open City Labs and Eric from BitFocus. I learned a ton just listening to your presentations as well, and I am inspired by all the good work that's going on in this community. Go ahead, Gabby. So I'm just going to quickly take you through what we're looking to achieve in Gravity pilots next year, and talk a little bit about the background for what we're doing in healthcare so that you can understand it contextually, get into a little bit of the reference architectures that we've drafted, and talk about how you can potentially partner with us. So go ahead. So, I'm the project sponsor. I will say, though, within our organization, our executive team, my peers, as well as our whole organization is fully in support of the work that Gravity is doing. And we're really excited to really pull our team together based upon the pilot projects that we set up. We have an extraordinary, talented group who not only can help with solutioning and design, but also implementation and support of the pilot solutions we develop. Next slide. So a little background on Salesforce and MuleSoft. We've been in the healthcare space for a long, long time. This is a small subset of some of the folks we work with. We also work across the market with companies big and small, and our knowledge, as I'll show you in terms of the solutions we provide, is pretty broad and deep. If you go to the next slide. Within healthcare, we're trying to transform the digital experience for patients, for members, for customers in general, and then, of course, for the care providers and all of the other personas or players who are involved in the healthcare system. And that's really on the Salesforce side, our core expertise. MuleSoft is the plumbing that allows data to move seamlessly between all of these systems so that we can create these great modern experiences that bring data from clinical and non-clinical data sources from within the firewall of an organization to outside the firewall with partner entities together so that you can create integrated care and integrated experiences for those who are using the tools and receiving care. So I don't need to go into all of the specific components here, but we have a vast array of technology and platform capabilities that we can bring to bear on these types of projects. And specifically, we deliver solutions in the healthcare space with Salesforce's Health Cloud in many cases. Sometimes they're service management or even sales-oriented or marketing-oriented needs. Our Lightning platform allows custom interfaces and applications to be spun up very rapidly. But, we're working in care coordination. We're working in clinical trials. We do a lot of work around network management and referral management. Most of the work we're doing uses modern standards, uses FHIR in many cases where it's available within the firms we're partnering with. And we continue to evolve all of these capabilities and the use cases we're hitting at a rapid pace to continue to serve our customers in the market as a whole. On the MuleSoft side, these are just a few of the areas we're working in. And, in general, we bring integration, API, and automation capabilities to our customers. MuleSoft's real value is accelerated delivery and reusability of components. So when we build integrations into EHRs, for example, we are not trying to build point-to-point, one-time use type integrations. We're building componentized integrations that can be spun up faster and then reused over and over and over again to power lots of different use cases throughout an organization, which is of, I think, particular applicability to models that implement the Gravity standards and the use cases described, because as we pilot this, our goal would be to create a framework that can be then leveraged over and over again for more rapid deployment of these use cases and similar use cases throughout the customers and the healthcare communities we serve. On the MuleSoft side, we just wanted to briefly, show some of the pre-built assets we have. We have a healthcare accelerator product suite that allows us access to a wide range of EHRs. It allows us to do a whole bunch of different, and this is a subset of it, but a bunch of different interoperability and process use cases, public health reporting. We're starting to do a lot more work in population health. And the idea, again, of these tools is that they're componentized tools that can accelerate delivery. So we don't have to rebuild everything from scratch when we find a new use case to approach them. We're looking to apply these accelerators where appropriate to these pilot projects. So generally speaking, in terms of the partners we're looking to find, we have a national footprint. The specific location of the partners is not of extreme importance. Obviously, we'd have to work out the details of how it works, but whether it's in person or virtual, we have hubs throughout the United States, North America, and the world, and we have people in most geos, whether or not we have an office building there or not, and of course can deliver virtually as well. The scope, we certainly want to start with use case one. We think that's a relatively straightforward use case. Obviously, in listening to our prior presenters, there's a lot of nuance there, and we're excited to get into that with partners who are working with community-based organizations or working within the context of providers or payers who are trying to document SDOH data. As I'll show you in the next slides, we also have been thinking through how we would then expand that into use case 2 and 3, where we already have a lot of experience working. We already do a bunch around referrals within the payer and provider systems we support, as well as I said, working to build analytics repositories so that people are able to draw greater insights from the populations they're trying to manage for clinical care quality, cost control, and any other specific goals of big data analysis. So we're looking for partners in any of these spaces. If you're looking for a technology partner, that's who we want to be, and we're looking to find use cases to implement these within these different entities. One thing also to know about Salesforce, we have what we call our 1-1-1 model. We provide and have from our founding 23 years ago, 1% of our equity, 1% of our time, and 1% of our products to communities focused on solving social challenges, environmental challenges, sustainability challenges. So we provide that every year, and our intention would be to do that for this pilot so that we would be able to provide product and services and support for these pilot initiatives on a pro bono basis under that program. And our goal for running this pilot would be really to make some good progress in the first half of 2023. We'd love to find our partners in the next month and a half, and have a good general idea of what we're trying to solve for, and then based upon that, executed throughout 2023 as needed. And why we do this, first of all, we are deeply embedded in this industry. It's important to us to be contributing and giving back to these communities. We want to support the incredible goals of the Gravity Project, as well as other organizations we're part of. For example, the Global Health Equity Network. We're members there, and we're very active in global health equity in general. It's a great opportunity, of course, for us to develop our teams. My teams that I lead are solving problems with technology and within the healthcare and life sciences space every day, all the time. And the more exposure to really knowledgeable folks, such as we heard from earlier on this call, helps us develop our capabilities and allows us to be better partners in this space. And of course, we think we can play a role in actually distributing SDOH capabilities throughout the ecosystem because we work so broadly within the space, and we want to support the use of SDOH data and standards throughout that community. We believe, if we can get some successful pilots off the ground, we can also play a role in helping disseminate that or seed it within the broader healthcare community and drive change in that way as well. So I probably can't speak to all of the details of this workflow. What we've experienced in solving healthcare problems is that there's always something unique to every environment and partner that we have. And so there are many different types of workflows for solving pilot use case one that we can imagine when we sat down to lay it out. This is only one, depending upon whether or not there's a bigger picture in mind, such as creating an integrated patient experience. Salesforce may or may not be used in the picture here. We can do all sorts of data ingest, whether that be using the standardized forms or building an interface or an app. We can spin those up very quickly to collect the information. And then with MuleSoft, we have, as I mentioned, sophisticated capabilities to do this all using Fire and then translate it as needed into other data standards. We do a lot of Fire to HL7 connectivity and transformation. And, you know, as I noted, we're connecting into literally hundreds of different or thousands of different systems. So we have a lot of expertise in that area to really meet our customers where they are. So if you're considering us as a partner, I think the systems that you're specifically using are probably don't think of them as a limiting factor. We work with and connect into all sorts of different systems. You can go to the next slide, Gabby. And one of the advantages of an architecture using Salesforce is that once we have the use case one knocked out, we believe we can rapidly then leverage what we've already done in the referral management space to pilot that as well. And our goal would be to design an extensible architecture that solves use case one initially, but then can be rapidly expanded to cover use case two. And the same goes for use case three. We'd have to get into a lot of the details here with our partners, depending on what they're trying to do, and if this is relevant for the pilots we choose to run. But again, we're looking to design an extensible system and take it a bite at a time. But again, we do a lot of work already in aggregating data for uses beyond specifically point of care and serving the patient in an immediate sense. So as far as technology and tooling standards, we think the tools that we would provide as part of this project would include our Experience Cloud, which allows us to collect information. There are other ways we can collect information. For example, if community organizations, can only capture paper-based input, we can also take that in and parse it and turn it into digital data for use downstream. MuleSoft would be our connectivity layer, where we connect everything together and transmit all the data and transform it as needed. And then to the extent that it's relevant for any architectures that we come up with, given the solution, Salesforce Health Cloud has a clinical data model that includes SDOH data as part of that pre-built data model. So we have a lot of the stuff already ready to go. It's just really a matter of defining the use case and the partners, and then figuring out a plan to build it out, which we can execute on, I think, relatively quickly. Of course, our goal throughout all of this would be to show how we can implement the gravity standards across all of these solutions, and provide at least one example of how this can be done in the healthcare space. So, we're seeking discovery conversations with partners where we can get into the details of what you're trying to do and what we could do together in November and December. So I know November's almost over given the holidays, but we'd love to speak with you and define a project so that we can jump into making something happen in the first half of next year. Again, our intention would be to provide our software and services as part of our pro bono work. And if you're interested in talking to us, please reach out to me, and I'd love to set up some conversations. So that's it. Thank you again. Happy Thanksgiving, everybody.
Thank you, Peter. I do see a question in the chat, if you don't mind. Elian's wondering if you're able to support transformation from FHIR to HL7 V2.
We are. Yep, that's a pretty common use case in our integration space. For example, we regularly integrate into interface engines. A lot of the time for certain types of use cases, we'll actually go directly into EHRs. Sometimes we go in through the HL7 interfaces. There are a lot of different kind of ways to skin the cat, but our general approach is to work with the systems that our customers have already invested in and already have substantial functioning processes and workflows happening in today, so that we can accelerate the delivery of the experiences and the solutions that are trying to bring to market.
Awesome. And I do see, Aaron, your virtual hand up. Feel free.
Yeah. Hey, Peter, awesome presentation. Thank you very much. I think it was use case 2, you have a remote patient completing a questionnaire. I was curious about identity proofing of that remote patient. Is it just patients known to the facility already, or do you guys support remote identity proofing today?
Oh, that's a great question. It might be a little above my pay grade.
Sorry.
No, that's okay. In general, I mean, we support obviously the standard overall identity management capabilities that are used throughout the technology stacks in enterprise and non-enterprise customers today. I'm not familiar with exactly what that identity proofing would be. How does that, maybe you could educate me, how does that play out?
Yeah, absolutely. So like this app that we have, any app that you have, right, in this domain, the first thing you want to do is authenticate who the user is, right? So you want to be certain that the person who completed the questionnaire and returned it was actually Peter Herman.
Sure.
How do we do that, right? Typically, we use OpenID Connect and OAuth 2.0, smart OAuth protocol to, integrate to the existing identity service.
Yep.
Right. So if the facility already knows the patient, we reuse that. And, the question is, I was trying to figure out, does MuleSoft today have an alternative or a SaaS PaaS offering that we could use to augment, especially when we're doing geography, actually doing population, looking at SDOH, not just health-related social needs, but at a population level, what's really driving these determinants.
Sure.
Just trying to think through, and it seemed like MuleSoft might have something in there. But
I mean, we certainly support OAuth and other standards. So if you're within the context of a system where you'd have identity already maintained and understood, that's an easy one, and that's pretty standard to what we do. If you're looking at validating folks kind of outside that identity framework, I would have to think through that and probably talk to some people about how we would achieve that, but I don't know the answer to that off the top of my head.
Yeah, it's totally solvable. We'll chat. I'll reach out to you if that's okay.
I'd love to. Please do.
Yep.
And I'll bring in some people who might know the answer to those questions.
And there, honestly, I was telling a client earlier today that, we're all the Wright brothers right now, right? We're the first in flight. So
that's what's so exciting about this. I mean, this is
that's worthwhile, right?
It's inspiring. Yeah, we get to figure this out. Thanks for the question.
Of course, Gabby, back to you, my friend.
Absolutely. And we have actually some time for a group discussion. I'd say about 7 minutes to be exact. We want to be mindful and giving a lot of time for people to reflect on the presentations, the wonderful, really insights, and, I think highlighting the uniqueness and the specifications and capabilities of our presenters today. I see a question in the chat. I'm not sure if it's directed to Peter specifically, but I'll just ask it out loud. And any of our presenters, feel free to jump in. Are you working with San Diego Community Information Exchange or Mayhem Ventura on Health Information Exchange on Affinity pilots? From our roster, we don't have one just yet, but we are definitely welcoming partners from those organizations. Anyone else would like to share?
Yeah, this is Evelyn. We work very closely with both from the Gravity Project perspective, and Myhan also has been working on their sandbox that they want to bring for child. So Gabby, yes, I did meet with the Interoperability Institute this week, and they'll be proposing to present to this work group their sandbox.
Perfect. That's great news. Awesome. And I know we had maybe a question about implementation, reference implementation. I'm sure, Brett, if you don't mind expanding on that. I'm just going through the chat.
Oh, MuleSoft is offering some really great tools there, and with their philanthropy. It's just perhaps they might have a role to play with augmenting the reference implementation, which could be done for the Gravity project. But the role they have to play here is awesome, and they could be worthwhile in a lot of ways. So it was just more of a offhanded thought.
Yeah, if there are ways we can contribute, even outside of pilots to support the organization, we should talk about it. We'd love to find ways to help.
Excellent. And we'd love to open up the line. We have a great audience here, and you're welcome to raise your virtual hand. I know some of you are joining us from the local, regional, state level, national level. So we really want to encourage some questions for our presenters, or maybe any clarifications on the group and the work that we're doing. It's really a space to hear from you. Lots of content, I know, to take in, but this is wonderful. I know we have just a few minutes, so I will move us right along unless I see any more questions coming through the chat. So in terms of next steps, as mentioned, this is our monthly call. However, given the holiday break, I think we know that December gets a little bit busy very quickly. So we won't have a meeting in December. We will reconvene on January 26th. It will be our meeting number 4. We have exciting news. As shared earlier, we do have the Connectathon coming up, as well as the publication of the STU2. So the Gravity Fire IG second version, and it is a process that we are very excited to continue to test and implement with our audience here. We'll follow up with some pilot presenters. So as people signed up, behind the scenes, we're providing coordination and technical assistance to support the identification of a tier level placing. Again, it really does take a village. I think as shown by our presenters thus far since September, one organization can now do this alone, and being able to have the support of technology vendors such as MuleSoft, as well as Salesforce, OpenCity Labs, with the wonderful innovation projects, and big focus on a specific concentration around housing. We hope that we can link you and be able to form wonderful partnerships that we can bring back to. I do see a quick question here. How does one get on the invite list for these meetings? Steve, I'm happy to send you the link, Denver, if you don't mind. Oh, there we go. You actually send it. So when you registered through the Confluence site, and I can do a quick demo since we do have a little bit of time. Once you enter your information on Confluence, your email will add you on the invite through the Gravity inbox. So Steve and I will make sure I can demo that. So this is the link, and I will do that in just one second. I want to thank everyone for your participation here. So in order to sign up and get this invite on your calendar, it's up here. My apologies. So how to join the pilot, the Affinity group. There is an interest form. We ask you about your organization, point of contact. So this is the email that we will use to send the calendar invite to. Again, we kindly ask you to provide us information on the type of role that you would like to join in, and that will add you to the calendar invite. Awesome. And I do see a hand up. Corey, please.
Hi, everyone. This is Corey Smith from the AMA. Thanks for the great presentations. I think the Affinity group is working on coming up with some ways to, and Gabby, maybe you're going to get to this in a second, on how to have sort of conversations in between these meetings, because there's never going to be enough time in these meetings. And I think as a stopgap, at least in the near term, you know, there is a Gravity SDOHCC stream in Zulip and Fire for those of you that are really focused on the Fire implementation, where many people are monitoring and looking. That might be a good way to. I'll post a link here in the chat. You know, we may come up with other ways to do that here as a group going forward, but I think it's just we do have a place, a community where we can have, you know, IG specific conversations if that's useful, that we can all benefit from.
Thank you, Corey. Appreciate your the input there on the chat. And as mentioned earlier, we will have office hours. So as questions come up, if you don't mind sending them to us, Gravity Inbox is a great way because it centralizes our communication. However, Demry and I are also hands-on supporting our work here. So any questions, terminology, Fire, partnerships, how to get involved, we're here to support everyone on the call. Just friendly reminder that we'll not have a meeting in December, and you know, we welcome everyone to officially sign up to get that invite on your calendar. And as we add components to our Confluence site, we'll be reviewing them during this calls, so participants are able to catch up and be able to watch all the slide deck, as well as a recording will be available on Confluence within 2 business days. We try to do it after the meeting, but definitely that is the place to look for materials. And we want to thank you all for participating in this national standards implementation process, really getting boots on the ground and testing the standards developed thus far. We have a wonderful team here to support everyone who is joining the journey. And kudos to all our presenters today. We hope to form partnerships and be able to present back on results. So all participants are doing an intro as well as a report out presentation, and you'll start seeing those next year within the first quarter. And, you know, as pilots timeline aligns, we'll have them present here. Without further ado, I will close us off. Thank you again, Peter, Eric, Matt, Brian, so appreciative of your time and effort on the slides. They looked fantastic. Thank you all.
Thanks, Gabby.
Thank you, everyone.
Appreciate it.